Hello and welcome to my channel. Topic of the day, adding and subtracting rational expressions. But before we go there, I would like to go over adding and subtracting fractions. Because rational expressions are a little bit more complex, but the concept is the same, it has to make sense. So let's go over the fractions first. I chose an example with denominators 10 and 14. So if let's say we need to add two fractions with these denominators, I'm looking for lowest common denominator because they're not the same. So lowest common denominator of 10 and 14. First, what we need to do, we need to factor both denominators. Factor meaning turning it into the product of prime numbers. So 10 is even. Smallest prime factor will be 2. So it's 2 times what? Times 5. 14. 14 is even number. Smallest prime factor 2 as well. So it's 2 times 7. So lowest common denominator of 10 and 14 equals to, what do we take in? We're going to take each different prime factor that showed up, but if it showed up in both of them, we're going to take it once. So 2 showed up in both of them, we'll take it once, times, what else we have? We have 5, and we also have 7. 2 times 5 times 7. It's gonna be 70. So the lowest common between 10 and 14 is 70. So I will turn both fractions now into fractions with a new denominator, which is 70, and then I'll be able to add them. But because I'm going towards rational expressions, I need to do something extra here. Right underneath, I will put factored form of each number, 2 and 5, then 2 and 7, then 2 times 5 times 7, and I'll tell you in a second why I'm doing that, times 5 times 7. So now we need to adjust numerators. When we're going to be dealing with rational expressions, what we will do, we will take a look at the original factored form and the factored form of lowest common denominator and see what's missing. You know that the actual steps how to come up with the adjustment for the numerator, you take the new denominator, divide by the old one, and you'll get the adjustment. So 70 over 10 will be 7. And another way to look at it, if we have 2 and 5 and new denominator, we have 2, 5, and 7, what's extra? That's the 7. The 7 is extra. Now 14, we have 2 and 7. And then in lowest common, we have 2 and 5 and 7. What's extra? 5 is extra. Now we can adjust numerators, will be 7x and 5y. And then the last step is the lowest common is 70, and then 7x plus 5y. Now let's move to rational expressions. The example I brought, there's 2 rational expressions I need to add with the different denominators, and denominators are quadratic trinomial. So according to the example we went over, and like I was talking about, we will be using same technique. What we need to do? First thing first, we need to come up with the lowest common denominator because denominators are not the same. And the steps to do so is to factor each denominator completely. So I'm looking for a lowest common denominator of x squared minus 2x minus 3 and x squared minus x minus 2. So let's factor each quadratic trinomial first. And remember how it's done. This is the simple form of quadratic trinomial with the coefficient equals 1. So there will be an additional video that you can go over how it's done. Meantime, you know it's going to be 2 by 2. And you know there's going to be x and an x in the first spot. because x times x, that's your x squared. The only thing you need to come up with was two numbers that product is -3 and sum is -2. So that's going to be +1 and -3. Once again, it will be additional video to explain in details how that's done. The second one is x squared minus x minus 2. Same idea. You know it's 2 by 2 that's given, and you know x and x in the first spot. So two numbers we're looking for, the product -2 and sum is -1. So that will be +1 minus 2. So after those two quadratic trinomials are factored, what I will need to do, I'll need to rewrite the denominators in factored form. So the next step is to come up with the lowest common denominator. Let's take a look at previous example and see what goes into lowest common denominator. We were taking all different factors, and then the factor showed up in both of them. We were taking it once. So the factor x plus 1 showed up in both factored forms, so I'm going to take it once, x plus 1. Then I also have x minus 2, and I also have x minus 3. So this is my lowest common denominator. What was the next step? The next step is to rewrite using a lowest common denominator. So that will be x plus 1, x minus 2, I need more space, x minus 3, and then plus x plus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3. So next we need to adjust numerators. And remember how we did that? We were looking at the original factored form and the lowest common denominator factored form and see what's missing. So what was, we have x plus 1 and x minus 3. In the lowest common, we have x minus 2 as well. So that's what's missing, and this is my adjustment to first numerator. Now, same thing, the second fraction, I compare the old old denominator with the new one, and then see there's an x minus 3 missing right here. So now I can adjust numerators. Will be 5x minus 10, and then 7x minus 21. Now I have two fractions with the same denominators that I need to add. So denominator is the same, x plus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3, and numerators will be 5x, I don't want to write it twice, 5x plus 7x will give me 12x, and then minus 10 and minus 21 will give me minus 31. So all you need to do now is to write your answer, and you can leave a denominator in the factored form.